Good evening. Good evening and welcome. Is everybody in? Wow, look at this room. Geez, you'd think the artist was present. Sorry, we actually have a fairly restricted schedule, so let's get down to it. Tonight's lectures, presentations, discussions are with Shohei Shigematsu and Marina Abramović. Sho Shigematsu, I'll call him Sho from here on, has been a partner at OMA Ammo for 5 years. He was lead architect on the well-known CCTV tower in Beijing and the recent Milstein Hall, the new architecture school building at Cornell University. Sho has worked with many brands and artists and has an unusually deep grasp of the difference. Not like everyone. Sho, as is typical of a certain type of practitioner, the type who fully and fluidly inhabit the forward slash between OMA and AMMO, is currently involved in an extremely labor, knowledge, and thought-intensive collaboration on the Marina Abramović Institute for the Preservation of Performance Art in Hudson, New York, which is the topic, at least one of the main topics of tonight's presentation. I understand they're also going to be presenting the mammoth Montenegro project as well. Sho lectures widely on strategy, ideas, and design, and teaches at a number of East Coast schools. And we are particularly excited to have procured his commitment to teach much more with us here at the GSD over the next years. It's a great pleasure as well to introduce Marina Abramović tonight on her second visit to the school in so many years. An honor more notable still, given the strict limits that Abramović has imposed on such appearances over the last 2, and particularly the next 5 years, as she refocuses energy and attention toward a new and different set of activities and concerns, central among which we shall be learning about tonight. Abramović is widely known as the spiritual founder of performance art practice, but this is a commonplace at best. If performance has a history, and if we agree to limit it to its modernist roots, we would certainly find these in futurism and data and surrealist practice, in the public and stylized rituals that sought to disrupt complacencies of both everyday and deeper experience. But contrary to received wisdom, we would need to acknowledge that it is not always or necessarily placed at the service of or in direct address to the proverbial or projected spectating public, but in fact is deployed with a view to transforming the affective universe of the performer herself. There are, without doubt, different strands of performance art, those that ensued from a thinking through of minimalist practice, particularly annexed to contact improvisation and dance. There are those that engaged through a kind of negative dialectics, operatic and technological developments in our social, historical, and urban environments. And finally, those whose almost Nietzschean concerns were with the mutual action of world and mind as collaborative agents whose purpose is to carve, mark, and sensitize the body. This latter arena is the one in which Abramović has worked for 40 years. Abramović's intense engagements with a spectating audience are not the province of social speech, and in this they do not easily assimilate into the familiar moralities of contemporary art. And they are in fact physiological investigations, public displays of acute or exacerbated labor, and I mean that in both senses of the word. Their goal is to give birth to a new animal or being that was both there and not there in the instant before. The path or route to the concrete and ambient world outside us, to the mind, and to what the ancients used to call the movements of the soul, is through the body or flesh itself. What you do to it, what operations you make it submit to, matters foremost. Early biologists taught that beings were neurologically and metabolically inseparable from their surrounding worlds. Those portions of it that they could intuit, annex, or perceive were in fact them. A change in the apparatus of perception or intuition effectively transforms not only the surroundings, but the entire organismal complex itself. To every animal, there corresponds a fully specific world, and to transform the one is to intrinsically modify the other. In this literal sense, Abramović's performances are self-altering acts whose consequences entail the effective transformation of the outer world that in the end we all share. When Spinoza asked, "What can a body do?" it was his point to show that we have no idea of the infinities that lie embedded within it. Abramović's practice is to both acknowledge these infinities and to bring them one by one to expression. This is why Abramović's practice is in fact not about art itself, no matter how often she invokes its practitioners and practices, but about the lived duration of life itself. In this afternoon's workshop, we had a moment to recall the soundtrack that accompanied her and Ule's 1980 work, Rest Energy, in which a bow and arrow was pulled taut for 4 minutes and pointed at her heart. The dramatic pounding and speeding of her heart corroborated, beyond doubt, that these are acts, not inactions. They are real, physiologically and existentially, as if these could ever be separated. If the body is the nexus through which space and time are experienced, assembled, modulated, and transformed, then to think about buildings, landscapes, urbanisms, cultures, and regions, as Abramović, with Shigematsu, has begun now intensively to do, represents a moment of extraordinary opportunity to architects, artists, and designers, because it offers to thought the idea of the building as a body in extreme spatial temporal extension, as a kind of organism at once freed of the natural limits of biology, yet which sustains psychotropic functions nonetheless. The capacity to continue to shape experience, perception, and imagination, a bit like cinema used to be said to do, outside of the body and life of a single being or consciousness. In many ways, that's, I suppose, one of the ways in which one can imagine the assembly, this very rare idea of the assembly of an institute, which is an extension, ultimately, of a body and a practice. There's too little room given in so-called sophisticated discourse in art and design practice for questions of knowledge and experience pertaining to the cosmic scale. This has been the limited province of physicists, composers, and philosophers in the modern era. But in recent practices of performance, the capacity, and indeed the urgency, to think these thoughts and to ask their attendant questions can be said to have impressed itself firmly upon us. What, for example, can a building do, especially when its principal mandate is to give place to disciplined forms of space and time-altering experience, to alter the bodies and minds of the users themselves? The design collaboration that we'll hear about today could very well serve as a new model to deparochialize thought in both the practice of art and of design, both now and into the future. I would now like to ask Serge Leborgne to come up and say a few words about the genesis of this project, and then we'll turn over the podiums, I believe, to our speakers. Thank you.
You can stay with me. Or we do it in French if you want. It's good. Good evening. I just want to give you some key dates, which are going to be more, which are really important for me, but also for all the team now of the Future Institute of Marina Abramović. We met each other in '97, and we start working together very quickly. And very early in the conversation we had together arrived this very simple question. What's the meaning for an artist of building a legacy? Or what's the meaning of a legacy for an artist like Marina Abramović? And very quickly we arrived to the point where we both understood that it has nothing to do with a museum or nothing to do with a place where we install works on the wall. But we were more concentrated on the fact that it has to be more similar to a school. It has to be a place where people are coming to learn something, and where other people, like artists or even students, can or could teach something. And in 2009, Marina arrived with this crazy project about the Institute. And since then, we are working. We are quite nervous and quite excited and quite, it's a real question. It's a new thing. It's not existing. Marina will tell you a little bit more later. But first, it's a big and incredible night for us and for the Future Abramović Institute to be with you tonight in this incredible, prestigious university. So I want just to thank you for that.
All right. It's on. Hello. Yes. Anyway, as you know, I'm a performance artist. I have to see you, and I have to be in the front of you, and I have to talk to you. So it's always direct contact. I just want to say that this morning was just incredible. 250 landscape artists was actually architects, not art, but they're artists in a certain way. They was doing this clean the house exercise where everybody was lying on the floor and doing the breathing exercises and sound exercises and drinking the water 10 minutes in slow motion and all this kind of stuff to actually understand how much important is to concentration, how much important is willpower, how much important is to focus on the certain subject one at a time. And I was really pleased with this exercise, and I think that gave me some kind of hope that actually Institute is going to function even more than I was hoping for. And I just wanted to now to introduce Mr. Shoshi Gamatsu, who is going to talk about the two projects who are enormous, and that one is my institute Hudson, and one is the project Montenegro. And later on, I will talk to you more specifically of my ideas. Sure.
Hello? Hello? Okay. Good evening. Again, incredible honor to be standing here with Marina and in this school. I just want to start from a collaborative space, I guess, between art and architecture I mean, I was very lucky to be involved in the Cornell University Architecture, Art and Planning faculty's new building. As you might know, it started with Moisen, and so I had a very intense collaboration with Moisen and Co., but mostly a bunch of architects. So as you can imagine, or as you can compare at the end of the lecture, that the outcome is rather stiff than collaborating with artists. I'm just kidding, but I'm trying to trying to loosen up, but I know it doesn't work in the beginning, but so this is the collaborative space. I think it's functioning very well. The beauty was that we provided such an open-ended space so that we could be involved as an architect into a pedagogical planning too, not just spatial planning. We are also involved heavily still in art world. This is the Quebec National Museum in Canada that we are working with. It's under construction. But working with the institution is, again, inherently very different from working very closely with a strong visionaire like Marina. So that's what I want to talk about tonight. And maybe it's a tendency that we have now in our office. This is a kind of a building that we're doing in Manila with a very eccentric art collector. This is Kanye West's collaboration with Kanye West. I mean, maybe it's not good to compare. Well, yeah. Well, you can see Kanye and Kim there. We're working on an artist studio in East Village with Saigo Chan, one of the most acknowledged Chinese artists. That's also under construction. So I don't know, maybe we as a New York office, or my New York office has been dismissed from institutions, but somehow in exchange we are gaining more and more work with artists. So any kind of project starts with a kind of strange reason. As you can see, Ram and Marina has been, of course, friends for a long time. She lived in Amsterdam for 25 years. Ram never really lived in Holland until recently, but of course he's Dutch. James Westcott, who works at our office now, used to be a biographer of Marina. So they knew each other, and actually I was the only one who had nothing to do with it. But maybe that's why I could absorb her kind of thinking the best amongst all these four people. As you might know, the site is upstate New York. It's close to, or semi-close to, all these kind of art institutions. I mean, it's between Manhattan and Harvard. I don't mean anything about that, but so this is the building that she bought in upstate New York, Hudson. It's a very modest town along Hudson River. Right now it's a kind of, there's a famous street with mid-century modern furniture. The building used to be community theater, was converted into a community tennis court, indoor tennis court. So you can see the scale of it. Those columns are actually fake, so you can see that columns are actually rotten and not really sustaining anything. But so it's a kind of decoration, though we like the kind of slightly Venturi-esque quality of this building, just for the architect's audience. It has a terrace above that portico, so it has some kind of civic view to the center of Hudson. And as you can see, the site in the building, they poured brutally the concrete into a theater. So it used to be sloped, but they poured the concrete to level the entire space to play tennis. What's interesting is that you can see here the tennis court didn't fit well into the space, so they brutally cut the balcony in the shape of tennis court. So it has some kind of crude detail that we want to actually preserve. But as you heard, whatever happens in this building will be over 6 hours. So as an architect, we had to respond to that very loose but strong premise. We inserted first a white box because we were both against kind of post-industrial exposed ducts and everything. We wanted to conceive a very pure space where a lot of different events could take place. But again, all these different events, everything will be over 6 hours. So within this white box, as you can see, it's a flat space, so it's multi-purpose, multi-configurable, very flexible, like this. But throughout the process, we identified 3 consequences for having a long durational performance in the building. The first one is called staying connected. So this is she performing in Guggenheim, and there, as you can see, there's a loose boundary in the center where people are fully engaged. But you can also see that some people are semi-engaged outside its white wall because it's so long. We also looked at other kind of form of this kind of loose engagement or staying connected. For example, baseball. As you know, baseball could be very dreadfully boring sometimes. Don't get me wrong, I'm from Japan, so I know it could be very exciting. But the current trend is that the central concourse where you used to buy hot dogs and beers are now open. So you don't feel like you're buying and you're not really watching game, but you feel like you're engaged to the game. And for example, this case where it's an extreme, like it could be maybe so exciting or so boring that you actually have a pool party next to the game. So we thought actually this was an interesting way of dealing with long durational. So you basically form a kind of onion-like relationship to the performer. So the audience 1 is the one fully engaged. The audience 2 is the one is staying connected but doing something else. So we thought that we had to address this audience 2 because audience 1 is, of course, very easy to engage. You're in the white box. So we started to look at other programs that she conceived for the institution. So circulation, collective function like classrooms, learning, like library, cafe, gym, office, and storage. And somehow arrayed all these different functions surrounding the space, its performance space itself, so that you are always looking down into the performance space, or you are always adjacent to the performance space. So this is another diagram. So within the white box, audience 1 exists, but audience 2 is inhabited in those different programs. So while you are doing something, you can always stay in touch with the performer. So it's almost like a dollhouse in section. That entire wall is conceived as a kind of a viewing window. So this is a library. So the reading room, reading nook itself became the window to look down on. The classroom, the entire back wall is glass so that you can still observe what's happening behind. While you're circulating up, you can also look down into the performance space. So that's first consequence. The second consequence is what she did today, called Abramović method. It's so typical, of course, that the performer trains themselves. But what she does in Abramović method, and what she believes she will tell you later, but the audience needs to be trained in order to deal with long durational performance. So she goes through this kind of elaborated method training in order to train as a certified audience. So you're going to even get a certificate after this process. And of course, we incorporated that Abramović method as a circuit within the building. So you start from one place and then come back to the same space. What's interesting about Abramović method is that this layering. So you can see these people are actually not performers, but they are audience to be an audience. So actually, they are not even an audience, going to be an audience, but you can see that there's a secondary audience who is observing the audience to be an audience. So in this theater, actually, typically, of course, the entire attention goes to the performer, but you no longer know who is the performer and who the audience is. So actually, it's a very dynamic situation that in Marina's world, everyone starts to be like a performer, not the audience. The third consequence is a chair. This is a chair she planned for the the MoMA exhibition. So she had to sit, of course, entire day without moving. So there was a facilitation for that. So we think that the chair also needs to respond for the long duration of performance. Of course, 6 hours, you probably cannot sit on this chair for 6 hours. So we looked at other forms of long durational inhabitation, like a space station, or of course, hospital, or business class. Or again, kind of combining two activities at once. This woman working and running, or working and working out. Or the typical form of dealing with long duration. I mean, this happens a lot in our office. So what we conceive or what we're planning to do is to design a chair that is simultaneously some kind of very relaxing, almost like a massage chair, but also with the mobility, so that in Marina's idea, sleeping is also a form of engagement to the performers. So when people goes to sleep peacefully, there could be Marina's staff actually rolling out the sleeping people into a slightly more peaceful part of the building. Or basically this is part of the meditational training. The building is, again, it's very authentic, so we want to preserve most of it. We just want to occupy the entrance hall into an atrium, but we hardly will touch the building. We also have an ambition because Marina's building is actually here, so it faces the city's main square. So we are trying to actually open up the cafe faces the parking lot in front of it, and to have some kind of art themed events in that park, and also in adjacent hotels and so on. There could be hotel dedicated for these people who is coming to the institution. This is her, as you saw. But this is the model we developed also, just to make a point about the inhabited wall. We made a big hole in the center of the model so that you can actually observe all those walls from inside. And as we started to work with her, we discovered that anything that we do with her starts to become like a performance. So we thought it would be nice to make also the observation of the model part of the performance. So we did a fundraising event in PS1. And of course that model became one of the attention, and then a lot of people enjoyed being stuck in the model. So that's my Hudson, but our collaboration extended in a very different context. So this is Hudson, but now we are doing a cultural master plan in Cetinje in Montenegro, a former Yugoslavia, called Marina Abramović Community Center Obod Cetinje. It's very long, but the logo is kind of simple. So as you might know, Montenegro is here, faces the ocean, like in the center of like North Africa, Middle East, East Europe, or Central Asia, and then Europe. Cetinje is this kind of World Heritage, UNESCO Heritage town, and our site is here. Used to be a fridge factory when they had, of course, dictatorship or communist regime of what was his name? Tito, sorry. This him observing. So it's a fridge factory. It defined a certain lifestyle at the time and the wealth of living. This was the logo. And as I said, the center of Cetinje is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And then that Makok site is here. It's quite big. It's about 360 meter by 440. All the existing building, this is a superimposition of all the major museums in the world. Actually, all the buildings can house almost all the major museums, so it's quite large. And this is the Venice biannual Jardine site, so it also comfortably fits well. So what we are doing is a kind of three-partite collaboration with the city, Marina, and us. So we want to turn Obod into kind of Abramović, a kind of cultural destination. Just to give you more context, actually Montenegro is booming because of the coastal cities. So there are a lot of like rich yacht harbors now being successfully operated. And Podgorica is this capital, and Cetinje sits in the center. And it used to be the capital, so it's a kind of spiritual and historical and cultural center of Montenegro. So we thought that this place could be a perfect place for kind of business and recreation hybrid. So we came up with this kind of master plan before even physical master plan, 50-50 split between culture and industry. So this is existing. We will demolish half of the building in the complex and create new flexible space in between a wedged park. And what you see in white is industry, what you see in black is culture, so again, it's half and half. I go in detail what these three entities are. So first, the preserved building, it's a concrete, let's say fabric, typical fabric structure that we are trying to have some kind of industry. So this the old kind of Obod production line. We are trying to attract a little bit more kind of up-to-date high-tech industry. There is actually already inquiries. And convert this building into also office space. Also, we are thinking to have one of the buildings dedicated for communist archive. This is still very controversial, but we thought that maybe the former Yugoslavia can actually be the center point of archiving different communism in the world. We looked at briefly what kind of communist museums exist. There is kind of memorial-based one, sculpture-based one, design-based one, but there is no comprehensive archive that covers the entire repertoire of communism in the world, like China to Russia to Cuba to all. So we think that this kind of archiving could be very exciting here, just one building dedicated. obviously we're not making fun of the communism, but we just think that it's actually to preserve the feel of this former socialist complex. It's actually a very interesting way to preserve not just buildings, but the feel of it. These are the monuments, as you might know, that exist in Serbia. Another idea which we came up together with Marina and, for example, Hans-Ulrich Oblist and Rem is that it's a notion of art parking. There are so many big, huge art produced in the world currently that has no way to go after that exhibition, nowhere to go. So we thought that without putting too much money on converting the space, we can just offer those buildings, huge buildings, as a kind of parking lot for those huge art. Because we discovered that a lot of art actually get dismantled after those exhibitions. So that's so-called art parking. And the last piece is that we're going to have some kind of socialist workers club facing the whole center of the complex, because we thought it was actually interesting that like there's some sense of overlap between what's happening in a tech industry, like in a Google house, like a collective, and social functions are the kind of one of the predominant face of the company. So all these so-called social spaces, but as you know, in the communist era, of course, this kind of canteen existed. This is Google. This is Obot. And also Obot had a table tennis club, of course. And then, as you know, Google's kind of one of the symbol of those tech companies are having pool table and ping pong table. So we are trying to have some kind of space that represents those socialist dimensions, but also, of course, works as a visitor center. One last intervention that we would like to come up with is, of course, some kind of mark of Marina's legacy. So this is her drawing of Abramović method. So we want to have a tower instead of the one in Hudson that was a kind of horizontal circuit that is dedicated for Abramović method. So this was the kind of tower historical reference in Montenegro, and this is what we want to come up with. It's still to be developed, but basically those methods are stacked on top of each other. And you basically it becomes the entrance and then also becomes the monument of the complex. And the open area is, of course, subject to any programming. But we are planning as a first move to have a huge concert in the space this summer. Thank you.
Wow, it's a lot of work. So, I have my presentation is a little bit different, but before my presentation, I wanted to talk a little bit about generally about motivation, why I want to make legacy, and what is the actually function of an artist today. I think that how art has been seen in the past, it was a kind of disturbed bohemian guy, completely on the drugs and drinking heavily and living in the studio. I don't care if being discovered or not discovered, and mostly dirty clothes, wearing huge block with the drawings. And this was like 40s, 50s, 30s, and so on. Actually, not. The futurists been always elegant. That's true, but the other ones, and and I think this entire image of artists is so much change. I think that artists have so much more responsibility and a very clear function today, because I don't believe that art should be happen in the nature, because nature is perfect as it is. Art should happen in disturbed societies, as we are living now in. And function of an artist have to actually have the idea of an art have to be so much multidimensional. It's not just one meaning. If you say art have to be, I don't know, feminist, I hate it. If you say have to be political, I hate it too. I have to have a multidimensional meaning. The art have to actually first predict future. The art have to be disturbing. The art have to, have the power to actually open the awareness of the viewer. And also the art have to be spiritual in many ways, and then have to be political and social and so on and so on. But also only when have the multi-layers, art could have a long life. Otherwise, if it's just one layer, society use and that's it. But every society and every time of development have to use one layer as is needed. So I'm thinking after all these years of my research in performance art, I understood that it's really important to unconditionally give to your own public and society and young artists your knowledge, and to figure out how that knowledge can be used. And this institute was really, for me, one form that I believe the most. I like the idea of institute because it's very European. It's not a kind of foundation. Because when you look into foundations of artists today, they're basically making their own museums where they put their own work. But this is not where I'm going to put my own work. This institute in Hudson is actually where the new ideas are going to be created. Oh, can we have the text actually in the back? There is a little text that we have it. I don't know, you can put it in the back that you can see, but can you put light? You can listen to me in the dark. Huh? Not in a really dark, half dark, huh? Oh, it's called The Mission. All right, let's forget. Put the light and we just forget this. Put the light back, please. Okay. There's always something don't work. All right, so which is really important to me is that is institute and not foundation. So how I'm thinking about, I wanted to, why you immediately will ask, why is my name on everything? Because I feel that my name is like, stays like a label, like jeans or Coca-Cola in some ways. You know it's about performance. When you see Marina Abramović, it's not going to be shoe shop or it's not going to be paintings. It's going to be really about performance. And then, which I believe this institute have to have, it's really address immaterial forms of art. And for me, immaterial forms of art are the music, which is the highest point of art, then performance, then opera, then, when you say opera, it looks so old-fashioned, but actually it's so much more interesting approach to new opera and new revival this media. Then after the opera, we're talking theater, we're talking the video, the film, and all these kind of arts who actually are not something that is constant, but is moving. So the way how I wanted to do, I would just want to show you the entrance hall from this place, the most important. So can we put the light off and then I get where I have to press. I have to press one button. Light out. And, right. So we have the same image, institute. This is video, no? How we do that? I don't know. Huh? Yeah, can we play? Can we play this video? Oh God, how are we going to? Yes, please play. This is the future. Now it's in the really beginning form. Acoustic is amazing. Listen to this. For me, teaching is very important. I want to have something that all I know of these 40 years of my career will come to the conclusion in this building. When you enter to the space, you will give in lab coat and you will give in headphones. You've been taking your watch away, your cellular phone, your computers. It's very important we forget about time. It's just here and now. We are creating kind of chambers where the public can experience different states of mind. All these chambers are preparing you to see work of art. And works of art will happen in this big space. The attendant will actually roll you in almost like a wheelchair and bring you to like a parking deck and cover you with a little blanket so you can nicely have a rest. But the piece is still going on, and somehow subconsciously you're part of the whole thing. So this is really important that this institute function, as I said, for the performance, but also for all the new form of arts that we don't even know the names. This is really just the base to develop the future. I have a huge ambition. Since child, my entire ambition was to change the world right away from the beginning. Because I can also, just make retrospective, go home, have a friend's dinner, and, I'm in MoMA and my life is completed. But I want so much more. I need to create that space for all other artists that performance really become mainstream art. It's not just about you, it's about others. Okay, so let's go back. I just want to show, I don't know how to do this. How we can go? I just want to, oh yeah, all right, okay. So this is this. So this is really important for me, the entrance of Institute. So how I vision the entrance of Institute is really like looks like science fiction. When you enter as a normal public, you absolutely can't get in if you don't give me your word of honor and sign the contract that you will stay 6 hours. You can't leave. If you don't respect your word of honor, this is your problem. But basically, you're giving me word of honor. And the moment you sign this contract, you get lab coats and you get headphones who completely block the sound. And then you can put in a safety box your belongings. And then you're ready to actually experiment. And that kind of contract is extremely important because basically what you're doing, you're giving me word of honor and I give you experience for that 6 hours time. And this is kind of fair exchange because in our life, in our world right now, nobody have time for anything. So to experience this and really do some kind of the change in your perception of the world and your experience, the time is necessary. So that's the one thing.
We have it.
What? Oh, it's fine. So, all right, so the wheelchair we already heard about, this is a new version, I love this one too. So, when you fall in sleep, you've been wheeled and parked in the sleeping area. And the moment when you wake up, you will have in one part of the chair some kind of, the power food and drink. I didn't realize how you can use the toilet. It's kind of complicated. But we will have, also in the chair, that you actually never leave. But we will have 3 toilets. It's a Robert Filio experiment, and I like to have homage to him. He was Fluxus artist, French Fluxus artist. And toilets in Institute is going to be for man, woman, and artist, like a new category. You see, in one of the chambers, before you go to see the main room where the performance is going to happen, you have to go to to different chambers for your own experience. So this chamber is actually on magnetic force, and these beds are levitating in the space. So you don't have the feeling of something is, it's some energy pull you down. So you have to actually feel this weight without weight, your own body. Again, the crystal chamber is really important to me because I work lots with crystals, and I think they have memory of the planet inside the crystal. And this is a long story. I don't want to bother you with crystals. So the small little performances, they're going to be niches that the public can see. The bigger performances is going to be in the bigger spaces. Mostly we will not use chairs, so you saw that. And then I wanted to tell you there is a huge history of long durational performance work, which is actually incredible that we can work on this. And also to have some kind of historical content, like Richard Wagner. His performances was a very long time, and he also actually give special instructions to his performer and singers what kind of food they're going to eat and what kind of how much quantity of water to drink that will not interrupt the going to the bathroom, the performance with such a long time. This one is quite incredible, the Schaffhausen. Then this one, it's, wait, I have this. It's, can you imagine the piece as long as that one? Where is the little thing that I can press? The little one. You have it?
You mean the
This, yeah. This one?
pointer?
Yeah. No, this is going backwards. So, okay. So, well-tuned piano is 6 hours from Monte Young. It's a wonderful piece when he actually only creating one note and is constantly repeating till the actually after 6 hours the one of the note of piano just kind of go off, and you have the credible sensation of enlightenment by listening to that, because it's completely kind of attack your system of concentration, because you're used to repetition, go on and on and on. In one point the piano just break. And then we have this one. I mean, this is the the Indian dance, 108 hours, 123 hours. And she have a little problem with the legs, looks like, but this is difficult. All right. Pina Bausch, 3 hours at the time, also have longer performances. We just choose this one. The Psycho of Douglas Gordon, it was a film that he actually created 24 hours. He made it so long that, let's say, the scene when the knife, when the killing in the shower, you actually look in the scene, you go for dinner, you come back from the dinner, and the knife didn't even reach the shower yet. That long. So it's completely extended to the kind of enormous amount of time. Kristen Markley, I think you saw in New York this piece of 24 hours clock, which is kind of incredible. Einstein on the Beach recently performed in BAM, 5 hours. Another hours of the David Levine, 8 hours. Te Ching, who is for me absolute the master of any performance with long durational. He made in his life 5 pieces, and every single piece was 1 hour. This is one of the most incredible pieces that he will entire year, every hour, punch this clock, and then he will take photograph, so that you see he start as a shaved, and then his hair was getting longer and longer and longer, and every hour will take the photo. So that means he could never get away from this clock longer than hour. The way how he take the food or sleep is kind of incredible concentration and long duration work. This one is even more amazing. So he was 1 hour he was 1 year in his own studio in a cage, and he have just the bed and water and the bucket where he will do his things, like instead of toilet. And he had a friend who bring one time of the day the food and change this bucket. It's a fresh one. And he was telling me after 1 year that the entire space changed. That when he's sitting on his bed, if he's sitting on the bed on the left corner, far left corner, that means he's in his sleeping room. When he's sitting in the middle of the bed, he's in his middle. It is in his sitting room. And when he's sitting on the far right at the edge of the bed, he's in the garden. So the entire space change. It's just incredible thinking of this. So the idea of the long duration work, it's mind-blowing. I was telling to the students this morning, if you just take the simple example of opening the door, and you open the door in your own house, and you open the door, but you don't enter, and you open the door and you don't exit. Just the action of opening, closing door. You do this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 hours. After 3 hours, the door is not the door anymore. The door is a space. It's something else. It's transformed in function and become completely kind of different. And you really reach a point that consciousness is expanding. So let me see. So that's the one. Another performance of him. He made the 5 performances in his life. This one is never to actually take shelter. He spent 1 year in New York without ever taking shelter. So he actually have to plan where he put his money entire year, on which place to bury, that he have enough time to have a coffee and food, but never took a shelter in that period, in 1 year, which is incredibly difficult to do. And then the last piece he made, he actually tied with other artist, Linda Montano, rope, and don't even like each other. They hardly knew each other. And to stay like that tight for 1 year. I was there in the time when they actually broke the rope. It was really incredible, because it was another experience how to deal with performance and life itself. When I asked Te Ching, when I asked him, okay, but what you're doing now? And he said to me, what I'm doing now, I'm doing life. And this was incredible, profound experience and answer to me. Because you know, when you're an artist, or you're architect, or whatever your creative things you do, you always do the next project because you didn't tell everything in the project you've done before. And there's always this next one, and next one is getting better and better, and you will be even better the next one. That means that you're never really completing. But if you really complete it, you don't need to work anymore. You don't need to make another building if you said everything that you want to say in your life. And for me, this man is really example of that. 5 years of each year one performance actually complete and change him and transform him and transcend him in a way that actually he doesn't need to be performer anymore. He is just doing life. And I think this is the aim of all of us. It should be. Okay. And my institute too, to learn people. So this is another one, you know, Terence Cole, it was really, really wonderful performance. This is a pile of salt, and he was for 5 weeks just circling around. And that's it, you know, just time and duration of performance. David Bagliano, 6 hours, he was lighting the match and extinguishing the flame with his own hand. So this is another. So anyway, some of my early performances, 16 hours, was that? 16 hours moving the car, and every hour, every actually circle, tell the name of the, just numbers. So we made 2,360 circles, 16 hours. The car broke down and create this black circle who looked like minimal sculpture from the gasoline going into the marble on the horror of the museum. Okay, this is another one, 16 hours. 12 days without eating, just drinking water and being exposed to the audience, and never come down, which the letters are made out of knives. And this one, you know, okay. Abramović method, we already talked about. Wait, so can we show the video, please? I come from Orthodox background. My grandmother was always going to the church. As a child, I used to go with her. I was very impressed by the icons, especially Serbian, Greek, and Russian Orthodox icons. Then I heard all the stories about icons making miracles and creating an inner light. In icons, it is all about the internal journey of enlightenment. In a state of pure consciousness, you produce light and project it to the outside world. The light comes from inside. Hello, and welcome to Abramović experiment. Please take very relaxed position on the seats. Don't cross your legs because you're blocking circulation. Relax. Breathe slowly and deeply. Performance is time-based art. Performance is living form of art. And also performance is immaterial form of art. It's very important for the public to understand and feel for themselves. So Abramović experiment is a kind of summary of all different knowledge I have through the 40 years of my work to bring the public to the point of experimenting for themselves. We built 3 basic objects to create 3 basic positions of a human body, which is standing, sitting, lying. Public have to sign the contract with me. They have to give me the word of honor They will stay in installation without leaving for entire 2 hours. After this, I will give them certificate of accomplishment to thank them for the trust. It's very simple exchange. If you give me your time, I give you experience. If you don't give me your time, there is no experience. Okay. So, a part of this part of Abramović method is going to be in the part of Institute. I just actually went the last 2 months in Brazil, and for me it was very important. If I am busy with something which is immaterial art, it's not the painting that you could hang on the wall and then you can see tomorrow. When you talk about immaterial art, you talk about energy. There's nothing but energy, and energy is invisible. So I went to different places in Brazil where I was looking for some answers. I actually categorized these places in 2 parts. Places of power, natural, the places who really have the power in nature, and like waterfalls, like a certain mountain formations, like volcanoes, like just the fields where it kind of feel different because something is different there. There's no humans. And then the people who have the power, who actually can incorporate spirits. And I went to this journey, and one of the most amazing places was called Abajania, which I went to meet the guy who called John of God, who incorporated 140 spirits and create and heal people from the terminal cancers and other diseases by operating them. And it took me a long time to get permission to film this, because he said to me that he will not give me permission as a man, but he can give me permission as an entity. You have to ask these entities. And after some days of waiting, entities say, I'm okay. So I made some footage. I want to show you just one of these materials. It's just, the entire research, and then you edit it in yourself, however you want. So can we show this, please? So the first part is about nature, and the second part is about people who have the power. Can you put the light down, please? I'm at Mercury. Or maybe I'm at Jupiter. Actually, this is Mars. And the sound a little higher. But I also like to be on Pluto. In front of me, it's a cave, and I'm going to explore. And I like to Can we show the second trailer? So anyway, the music is just totally wrong, so we changed. Because we made more than 100 hours of material, and the Brazilian production, they have to get some money, so they put this music against my will. But a part of this, the film is it's called The Current. It's about current of energy. And in Institute, I will have the space, which would call The Current, where just the energy will pass, and by sitting in this current, you can actually feel it. And this is the next one. You can show this one, yeah. Again, the same music, I'm sorry. I came to Brazil to look for places of power. And for the people who have certain energy. The ones who really learn how to take energy from outside and from inside of themselves, transform it and give it back to the ones who doesn't know to do that.
Deixa eu fazer essa raspagem. got the same.
How using the energy of entities I can help raising consciousness through art. So my presentation maybe look confusing because there's so many parts here and there, but basically this institute is going to embody all of this and is going to really revisit ancient cultures and to find out what the spirits, to find about invisible worlds, to find about energies we forgot about completely, and to really teach audience to change the way of life. So it's a kind of big deal, and I would like now everybody to come to the podium because we're going to answer all the questions you have, I hope. Okay,
Serge, why don't you come up here and keep us company?
You have to come.
We have all of 8 minutes to answer all the questions, but I was going to propose perhaps that we listen to 4 questions and then we answer 2.
It's because we have to go to dinner?
We were told you were really hungry and we needed to usher you off. We actually have a lot of people waiting for dinner, and there is a lot more there are a lot more questions and discussions about to happen. Actually, there's a second session coming your way, Marina. So let's take some questions. 1, 2, 3. Let's take 5.
4, 5,
We're
6,
going to take
7.
your 5.
7 is a good number, come on. And 12 too.
Do we have enough mics?
Marina, thank you very much. I am wondering how you think about your own subjectivity, especially vis-a-vis the many subjects of the audience that you encounter, and if you think about your own subjectivity possibly becoming a multitude of subjectivity.
First of all, I'm not the running this place. I don't want to be director of institute. I will not be director also of anything to do with the Cetinje. I just want to be consultant. And I really think that's very important to create platform and then open to the artist. And I want to, now we are in actually in a process of making the plans, the really offering to very young artists, and also the very non-artists, possibility to create the works they never created before. So we wanted to create long durational work in any category. And maybe some people have the wish and never had the courage to do it. And I really like to that is a laboratory. It's like a factory for learning, but also factory for experimenting. And a really important thing that when you experimenting, if you fail, it's okay. Because that's what we, in our entire culture, we are so trained not to fail. But then we are repeating ourselves. So I want to have something like Andy Warhol with no drugs.
There is no Andy Warhol without drugs.
Factories.
Could we take one from the right? We'll take, yes.
Thank you. This pertains to something. You mentioned that immaterial art is the communication of energy. Then how do you view those of us who are object makers in our practice of art? How do you view then the material form of art? And how does that communicate energy?
But you know, of course, the object can communicate energy. In old cultures, the objects have incredible power because what you do, you project energy into object, into painting, into the different materials, and then you are not exposing yourself, but the object is the one who communicates. But in performance is different. In performance is the person who actually have energy dialogue with the audience, and so that he have to learn to do that. So it's really important, and that's invisible, So this is why I think when you're insecure as a performance artist, you need so much things behind you to kind of hide behind the shit. But basically, when you really understand that energy, you don't need nothing at all. You just need yourself, and energy will happen. And that's the most incredible thing. This is why it's so important to learn about shamanism and ancient cultures, how that energy can transport it, translate it, and how you can make the audience feeling it. But if you're the artist who produces objects, you have to be able to do this with the object.
Pablo, yeah. Hi. I had a question regarding what to me is sort of a theme that's ever present throughout the presentation of your work, which is basically the religious overtones it has, and how it all seems to be, to me, about the construction of the human soul, but it's never explicitly said like that. And then what is very explicitly mentioned throughout the presentation of the building are all these comparisons with marketing and branding. And so it's a two-part question. The first is, are you afraid that if you make your work explicitly religious, it will somehow be flattened, it will be degraded and be turned into this sort of new age, sort of religious crap? I'm sorry, it's second language.
No, very good question. I'm enjoying this.
And the second one is, if so, what makes you so sure that you can withstand the forces of market, which overcame religion at least 200 years ago?
But do we agree that the market also can be crap, not just religion?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Great. So we're talking about two crops. So let's avoid both.
I'm not saying religious. There's crappy religion.
I hate New Age, and I hate all these overtones because maybe you get because of my last journey in Brazil like this. But I actually, it's just one as a component, but not everything is like that in my work. Plus, this institute is not about my work. It's going to be other artists with different ideas and different points of view. It's going to be only platform for their experiments. And the market is, how things looks like now, it's not great either. But I am not interested with the market. Making performances as I do, it's really not something to do with market.
But why then avoid any specific mention, like any specific comparison to religion, and be so open to like this market speech throughout the presentation?
Oh, because I really think it's important to embrace contradictions. If there is, my life is so full of contradictions, and I'm expressing my things that I'm ashamed of. I'm expressing my vulnerability in my own work, even in the films, because if I would just say that now I'm kind of a religious icon, it would be total bullshit, because I'm not. Because I also love fashion, and I like also the things that have nothing to do with religion at all. But there is a certain, I don't even like religion. Religion I hate, basically, because religion is something to do with institution. And institutions are corrupted and deals with power. I'm talking about spirituality, which is completely something else. And spiritual is about invisible energy. It's about something that I think everybody of us can actually experience in their own life. Do you ever experience things that you rationally can't explain? Do you experience things that you think of and this happen? Do you ever experience that you wake up in the morning and you feel this incredible luminosity and clarity, and there's something like a special, you can't understand what it is? That's I think kind of spiritual experiences who every artist should have. And I do. But market, can you answer? I think he's the one. Talk about market. Because to build architecture, you have money, you need money.
Well, we are at the same time raising funds for this building, so of course we have to do some sense of communication. Communication is sometimes maybe what you call marketing. But I think in this building we're very focused on almost forensic observation of what Marina is coming or trying to embody. And as you can imagine, when we started like a year ago, a year and a half ago, she had certain ideas, but it's keep evolving. So, you know, it's also a challenge for us to create a kind of coherent language and platform to express that, spirit. And that's very difficult to catch up, as you can imagine. I don't know if you're an architect or artist, but we feel constantly kind of dominated, which of course kind of frustrating as an architect, but it's also a very new experience for us.
Okay, let's talk about money. So this is what I think. You know, I was thinking, okay, I got the concept from the OMA, and they say it's going to cost 17 million. You know how much for an artist, 70 million? This is kind of, what is this? It's really enormous amount of money. I don't know how to start. So I was thinking, how am I going to raise this money? And I was thinking, okay, I have to have clear mind. To have the clear mind, I went to Brazil. And I spent 2 months in Brazil, literally nowhere, in jungles, and meeting all these, shamans and people, and seeing these crazy operations of the body without having pain or anesthesia, understanding of the waterfall, the energy which is there, and so on. And this was like, for me, preparation way to how to raise the money, to get really good ideas. And actually, I came with very good idea. And one of the good idea how to raise the money never been done. And I'm going to exercise. And it's not about asking rich people sitting on the terrible dinners that you really hate it and speaking to people you're not interested. And it's not about talking to industry, and it's not about usual fonts of fundraising. It's the only way that I can raise the money. I can't tell you actually because it's secret. But no, I can't. But it's really great idea. And this idea I got in the middle of jungle. You have to go away. You have to go away from city, from internet, from telephone, everything, to really kind of have a clear mind. And I only know one thing for me, my motto, if you say to me something is not possible, is always just the beginning. And that's what I do.
Last question. Let's go here. All right.
Thank you very much. You mentioned that in your institute in Hudson, you're planning bathrooms for men, for women, and for artists. I wanted to ask, what sort of other physical or institutional arrangements do you think you have to make, or are you planning for the people that you're going to invite to perform at your institute?
What kind of, you mean for the people who are invited to perform?
Yes.
First of all, first is going to be the board of the directors who are going to look the proposals. I am just one of them. I'm not going to be one who's going to decide in any possible way this is going to be artist, this one or not. But we're really going to look into pieces. Let's say if we think about dance, we're really going to look into contemporary dance, and we will look in the pieces who have this kind of how I can explain, something like mesmerizing and some ritualistic, but not is the wrong word. It's really to deal with time. You know, to me, Pina Bausch was one of the most incredible, the choreographer of all of time. I like the Cressmarkers, the Roses. I will bring lots of European things that actually Americans don't have and don't see it so often. That they're really like, in a certain way, the new dance that I didn't see here in this in this kind of the ground here in America. Then if we think about the theater, there's a very interesting guy who made this theater of living. I mean, he made this performance that he asked the professional actor in Germany to go to the field outside of Berlin and as an actor plant potatoes for 3 months. And the public will come with the buses and, observe him as an actor from the actor point of view, planting potatoes. I mean, it's kind of incredible. I mean, there's so many new ideas in music, in art, in film, in the theater, and performance, and especially with lots of very, very young artists, which I have contact all the time. And I want to bring that kind of awareness and attitude. There is something fresh, different, and nothing to do with the actually existing art market that you know right now. That's kind of program I would like to see in this institute.
Marina, maybe you can also talk about Hudson itself, your ambition, because I couldn't really elaborate on that town itself, not the building.
Okay, Hudson. You know, there is a Marfa. You know about Marfa, and everybody knows in the Donald Judd concept. But it's so far away. And Hudson is only 2 hours from the, with the train from New York. And to me, I'm not looking institute as a single isolated entity. I'm looking the Hudson as actually entire Hudson as a performance place. I'm looking in all the inhabitants in Hudson, how they can be involved. And they are actually the first, my first audience, the Hudson people itself. And, to build, let's say, the hotels in Hudson who will have no television, but just one channel, and will be connected live stream with the institute, so that actually when you go there, you already meditate by itself. When you arrive in Hudson, you can start with lab coat right away from the central station, and you have the school buses which are going to paint white and put just the institute name, who can be transported to institute. So the basically entire town become performing place, which is like really changing the way. I mean, it's really interesting how that works. Like I was also studying lots of things about different communities and different the foundations in the world. One of the most successful was Bauhaus, and then another one, I don't know if you're aware about this, in Switzerland, called La Monte Verita. La Monte Verita, it was the actually place where in that time, in the 20s, all the writers, architects, the philosophers, the musicians, you will go there and create community and create some kind of collaboration between each other. And this was the base of Bauhaus, which was later on, made in Germany. So the combination of group of people who are creative, it can make wonders. So I'm really asking all my friends, artists, that, if they go and find a house in Hudson and just create, that kind of community, the more the better, because we actually need all of you. And I hope that you will be one of the visitors really frequently, because it's only 2 hours from here to Hudson to experiment this whole thing. And to me, it's so important that kind of community communication, that is not just coming some kind of international kind of jet set into the Hudson and seeing this in a very how you call it, the way that is very privileged. I want that this is done for the normal people. This is done for everybody. That's really the difference. It's not art public. I wanted to educate just public, normal public, to come. They will come and experiment something different, that they can't do it in their own situation of home or of their own life. Oh yeah, the Stanford asked me that if I need, in this moment before we stop, it is always good to answer one personal question. Is this personal question?
Personal question.
What is the personal question? I love personal. Talk directly, scream.
What bores you?
What bores me? Actually, I'm never bored. I don't know. But let me tell you about boredom. Boredom is so important because, the idea to sit just on the chair and look outside of the window and do nothing for a while, that's the incredibly important state of mind that we always forget to do. And I remember when I was a child, I would sit and do this very often, and when my mother come to the room, I would immediately grab the book to make proof that I'm reading or learning or whatever the shit I'm doing. But basically, that's the incredibly important, or do things that is unexpected or this out of ordinary of your life. One of the things I propose to students is such a great exercise, which I done with my students. You take the map, let's say take the map of New York, and blindfold you, and you just take a pin and put one point. And then you look where is the point and go there and see for yourself what will happen to you. or go to the central station and go to the train in any direction without knowing. You can't do this here because you have to show the ticket. It's complicated. But basically, you know, go into any direction and see and come to certain direction or territory that you've never been and see what happened. To really create circumstances out of ordinary where you put yourself there where inspiration and the new work comes. Doesn't come sitting at the computer, believe me, it doesn't. You have to do life, and the work comes out of life. Thank you.
Thank you.